Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi Junkie. My name's Neil. This is episode 2, or video 2, and I'm just picking up from where we were last time, where I was talking about my expectations, concerns about the upcoming Star Trek spin-off of Picard. I said if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be going on to rant and rave, so luckily I loved it, so there's definitely no need for me to rant and rave. So I just want to share some thoughts really. What do I like about it? I thought it was actually very respectful of the history of Star Trek, and yet the first episode has, by its very nature, a little bit of exposition to bring it up to speed on what's gone on within the Federation and Jean-Luc's life within the intervening 25 years which have passed since we last saw him. And we get a different character, and we get enough of the old character but with some further nuances, so a little bit more jaded, a little bit more world-worn and kind of ground down. And then as the episode develops, what you begin to see is that there's actually the same areas of honesty, integrity and principles that are still ingrained deep within the character, which come back to the fore, and as those get reignited, so we see his character gain more and more energy. So unsurprisingly, the performance by Patrick Stewart was amazing. I thought all of the supporting cast were more than passable. I will mention the de-aging of Data. I thought it was very good in terms of he doesn't look as old as the actor looks in real life, in terms of his face from the front perspective, but he's still a little bit jowly and flabby in the face. So it was kind of almost a perfect way of de-aging the character, but I thought it was very respectful. I didn't find it particularly jarring, it was just noticeable. But if you've not watched Star Trek for a while, then it's probably something which is just going to pass you by and you won't notice. But someone who watches this stuff, I probably watch the Next Generation, not the full run, but selected episodes on a yearly basis. So I guess I'm going to be more tuned to that kind of the subtle changes, which 25 years since the end of the last feature film to the current series is something which I can clearly perceive. I don't want to give too much away about plot details in case you've yet to view episode 1, but I guess what I'd like to say really is that if you're in the space where you're watching YouTube videos, you're on social media, you probably have seen some snippets, some theories, some idea, and enough of those ideas are close enough that occasionally you might go, yeah, maybe I have been slightly exposed to that idea or part of that concept before, but it's also got sufficient twists in there which kept the episode fresh. The response received from the people that I spoke directly to about it was that universally everybody loved the show. So I've not found any kind of naysayers at this moment in time in the group of friends which I have who love science fiction and have loved Star Trek, in many cases back to the original series. So that's been really encouraging, because in comparison with Discovery, there was quite a lot of variation. Some people really liked Discovery, other people completely hated it. I found myself somewhere in the middle, where it's a show which has grown on me. I think it's got lots of potential, and as always, sometimes it's kind of a missed opportunity. So I'm interested to see what they do with Discovery as they go to season 3, and seeing whether actually they continue to evolve and course correct and get us to a point where we get a show which is actually very much not just for the die-hard Star Trek fans, but great science fiction. But again, it honours that legacy, and for me that's where Picard gets it right. It is different. Yes, there are a lot of updated visuals, the effects are miles above and beyond what you saw in the original series. The world has moved on, and yet there's enough there to suggest continuity, so it's not jarring. We don't look at that and go, this is not the same show. And that's definitely, if you look at the switching from Star Trek to Star Wars, look at the Star Wars prequels. The biggest issue for many of us, obvious things like Jar Jar Binks obviously wound everybody up, but the core thing for me around Star Wars was the fact that it was always very strange that we were back in time, but all the effects, the displays on the starship etc. were ultra modern and more advanced than we saw in the future. So those type of things can jar. So sometimes filmmakers get these things very obviously wrong. Other times it's kind of a little bit less cut and dry. I personally think Discovery's look was perfectly fine. It aligned nicely with the Kelvin timeline. My issue has always been is whether it's just really good science fiction, whether it necessarily needed to have the word Star Trek affixed to it. Definitely for the first season, I don't think that show was really Star Trek. It just was a sci-fi show which took place in the Star Trek universe. Whereas season 2, I think that started to feel a lot more like Star Trek, and obviously they made the amendments to the Klingon makeup effects and brought that close to the Klingons which we recognised, gave a reason for the clean-shaven Klingons of the first season, and that balanced it quite nicely. So you can course correct. One of the beauties you have with long running series is that you can get them out to market, get some feedback and make some form of subtle adjustment. I think where Trek's at its best is when they make that adjustment, and what they do is they check that against the original vision. I think if you make the adjustment but you go straight back to Roddenberry's vision and you go, okay, what was the core purpose of Star Trek, what was the aim and the ambition of it, and correct that, because you can have the same vision but it's just it tonally depending on what type of world stories you need to see. We've seen this done fantastically in other shows. Battlestar Galactica, the core story remained the same from the 70s show to the recent remake. But why did it work? It worked because although they updated it, the vision was still the same. The core of that program remained identical. So I've come on really to do a video on Picard, and I know I've wandered off and I mentioned Star Wars. I've also mentioned Battlestar Galactica, so apologies for jumping around a little bit, but it's just the way my mind is kind of like processing how much I'm enjoying this show. It also reminds me of something which I can remember back when The Next Generation came out, which was there were a lot of people when The Next Generation came out, critics and also people involved in the original Star Trek, who kind of said you can't catch lightning twice. You know, they were so lucky with the original series of Star Trek, the Next Gen would be a complete flop. And obviously, although I would still have to guess that technically the most iconic of the show is still the original Star Trek, because it did so many things that have never been done before. No one can argue with the fact that the Next Generation was a phenomenal success. Where's Picard going to go? That's my next logical question. I think it works really well so far. I'm looking forward to watching episode 2 this evening. I've only watched episode 1 4 times so far, so I may squeeze that in before I see episode 2. So I'm going to make sure that I'm giving myself a nice healthy Star Trek overdose. Where can this show go? Well, at the moment, it's very intriguing. They've got a number of interesting lines open up from episode 1, so we've got some interesting direction to go in. There was a couple of twists, there's a couple of surprises and a couple of shocks within the episode. So all those type of things fill me with optimism. Like anything, I think if you can get the first episode right, you win a lot of goodwill, and the question now is, can you sustain that across an entire series? Now, with most series, I would expect that you'll get some really good episodes, some average episodes, and 1 or 2 episodes which just don't quite work. So it'll be very interesting to see how Picard develops, and whether it also follows that kind of pattern of better episodes and worse episodes. My personal hope is that because of the time it was in production and because of the lessons which we hope they've learnt from the discovery process and the experience of the cast and crew involved with this project, that we'll get more good episodes than bad episodes, but only time will tell. So I'm going to just basically give it a really crude star rating, 4 out of 5 stars. So you may say, okay, 4 out of 5 stars, that's quite good, why not 5 out of 5? Well, because you've got to have a benchmark. So I still think that the some of the finest episodes of The Next Generation would be probably, what's my favourite episode of Data Law, or I may go for, I forgot the title, but the 2-part Borg episode, which really annoyed me, which I forgot it. I'm tempted to go and grab off the shelf to read it, but I'm not going to. That's because I'll have to do some awful editing, which will look even worse than my usual quality. So excuse the rambling nature of the video, but 4 out of 5 stars for Picard, based upon episode 1. And I think, to a good comparison, a show which I've really enjoyed, and I'll probably talk about on another video, would be, I've just finished watching season 1 of The Witcher, and I would say The Witcher, if you'd asked me about episode 1 for The Witcher, I would have given that one probably 3 out of 5 stars, because it... Well, I'm not going to talk about it now. I'll do another video when I look at the Witcher series, but I think The Witcher was another great show which I've enjoyed watching, but in comparison, Picard for me is higher again. Other series I'm going to talk about later is I've just started, because some friends of mine keep raving about it and I've not had the opportunity as of yet to spend any time looking at it, is I'm going to be looking at The Expanse. So hopefully either next week or the week after, I'm going to try to put in 2 videos that week. One which will be my Picard update, and the other will be very much about looking at a different series, possibly The Expanse or something else which maybe catches my eye between now or then. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. So thank you very much for your time. If you do like my videos, which God knows why you would based upon the current content, I do hope they improve with time. But if you want to see how I improve on my journey, then do click the subscribe button, click the thumbs up, click the bell so it notifies you that video's been up, and then hopefully what you can see over the next, hopefully not too long a time spare, over the next 3 or 4 months, that the quality of the spoken content of these becomes a little bit more professional as I get used to talking to the camera. I have got a little series in my head that I've already planned, which is how not to start a YouTube channel. So if you want to see how not to start a YouTube channel, then again stay tuned, because I've got a little series which will tell you kind of the thing that I've done as kind of a prelude to starting this channel, which a lot of people would say, why didn't you just get on with it a lot earlier? Which to a certain extent I agree with, but there's some stories there which I'll go into at that point of time.